not sure about you guys, but even if it's just for a little bit here, for the novelty, whatever it may be, I've been enjoying pretending like it's 2011 or 2013 again and playing a bunch of the Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 ports. The games a lot of us probably grew up on, not in a remastered sense, but in a sense of truly, like, it just feels like a time hop back to those points, with these ports being where they left off to some degree. I'm fully aware that this is nostalgia bait, but reliving the games I grew up with, stayed connected in high school with, and so on, it's been fun. However, while being ports, essentially meaning the game is just again here as it was then, there's a few key differences and oppositely a few things you may have forgotten about that I wanted to run down with you here today. So drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe for more FPS coverage. I'd love to have you in the community. And finally, check out my friends over at Advanced GG, where code Espresso can get you 10% off your entire order, but more on that a little later. For now, let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about isn't anything too major in terms of like breaking the game or anything that it changes how you remember it, but there is something that I'm sure we could have all seen coming, given that, well, since Black Ops 3 it hasn't been a thing, is player counts. Back in Black Ops 1, back in Black Ops 2, both of these games ended up showcasing the actual player counts that you'd end up seeing. Where in Black Ops 1, you'd end up seeing when you scrolled through the menu selection for whatever match you wanted to find, core, party games, bare bones, hardcore, DLC, stuff like that. Each of those playlists would, underneath the player count in terms of that match, showcase how many players were on in that playlist of the overall global population. Both Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 did this, but Black Ops 2 took it a step further, where right on the main menu you had that spinning globe, where this would actually showcase where all of the hot spots were, where those connections were coming in, kind of giving you like a heat map of where everybody was playing on a global sense. Underneath that, also giving the overall total. Now, the total, of course, isn't there, but it also seems like that globe is just not working. It doesn't seem to showcase those hot spots anymore of where players will be. Of course, with yesterday being the launch of this, probably being one of the bigger days, maybe today it grows a little bit, maybe over the weekend it grows a little bit, those hot spots would have absolutely been lit up by that point, and as of recording this, would have been the case as well, but are not. And stranger still, it seems like the heat map is working on Black Ops 1, showcasing where those players are that are active and currently online. Wager matches are also something that were an integral part to Black Ops 1's multiplayer experience. Now, this is something, of course, you don't have to interact with, but was a very good way to end up getting additional COD points, or the original COD points, before it turned into an in real life currency conversion for in-game. COD points in Black Ops 1, I'm sure you've probably been reacclimated to this, but for those that maybe haven't played just yet, maybe don't remember, COD points were how you unlocked everything within the game. Everything cost, air quote, currency or money, and that was COD points that you could end up earning through traditional leveling and everything like that, but you could also end up exponentially getting more through contracts that you could buy with COD points to get a higher yield of additional COD points. And then wager matches were the things that you could actually straight up gamble your COD points to make back a little bit more depending on your placement and how you performed in a wager match. Now, of course, these were incredibly fun, but we never really got a solid explanation as to why these were removed from the overall COD experience. One can likely infer it was perhaps because of international gambling laws, things like that, trying to make sure you can sell the game and it's not restricted in any country that you want to try and capitalize on from a business perspective. But it is something that, I mean, we hadn't seen this return for years, but it is kind of strange that an integral way to end up getting those COD points to unlock and engage with the content of the game has just been pulled. Theater mode is another thing that is removed here from both Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, where this was a great feature, honestly, back in the day. Still love theater mode to begin with. There was definitely more connectivity debate surrounding this back in the day versus the versions we have in more recent Call of Duties, but theater mode is pretty great. Able to watch your matches back. If you're a content creator, something that definitely allowed you to save some space on hard drives that you weren't recording everything. But whether it be for simply file hosting reasons, or perhaps because of infection mods and cheats that were accessible via theater mode, it was something that was removed here as of these ports, and we don't have. League play was also something that was removed, which was one of my favorite parts of Black Ops 2 way back in the day. Still remember grinding solo and with my squads to try and get to Masters rank 1 of whatever division we got placed in. That was some of my favorite times back in the day. But League play, of course, also not returning. That was kind of sunset years ago, so while it would be great to see it return, likely after a couple of weeks' time, it would be something that would be very hard to find matches of an adequate rank to make it worthwhile, but I definitely would have loved to be able to play League play one more time like it was 2013 once again. And finally, the last thing that's like a core feature for all of these games is that, well, leaderboards were actually removed from Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. This being a little bit perplexing, I think. I mean, I don't think that leaderboards, especially when you take a look at global and like friend ranks, it's anything you need to pull out of the game. The only thing that I can think of is that it would give insight into how many players were actually playing these versions of the ports. But at the same time, if you're like worried about player numbers, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a lot of people that end up realizing, oh, this is one platform, one port version. And especially with the lack of player numbers in recent Call of Duty games, it's not even like you can use that as ammunition to say, oh, there's so many more people playing these old games versus the new ones. So like, to not have leaderboards is just a strange removal in my opinion, but that's a handful of things that were removed. Now, there are a couple of things that did stay that a lot of people maybe did not remember or may not have thought about since these games themselves. The first one that I personally love is all the terminal commands in the main menu for Black Ops 1. Still one of my favorite things I think of just like added little Easter egg stuff is that the main menu, of course, you end up starting out as Mason in the chair and you can go through the TV to select campaign, multiplayer, or zombies, but you can also end up getting up from that chair, for those that don't remember, going around the room and then seating yourself at the computer terminal in the back of that room. That again, otherwise, unless you got out of that chair, you would have no idea is physically behind you from that initial main menu. Of course, from here, you can end up doing a whole ton of cool stuff. There's like a lot of different stuff with various different characters for logins, Mason, Lyndon B. Johnson, Hudson, JFK, things like that you can take a look at, which is pretty cool. There's the ability to quickly unlock everything in relation to 3-arc unlock, that unlocking the zombie map 5, but also disabling the stand down achievement or trophy, while 3-arc intel is also something that unlocks all intel for the game for viewing, but again, disables another achievement or trophy called closer analysis. There's other things you can do like the Zork minigame. You can launch in a Dead Ops arcade, this firstly being the DOA. Just a lot of cool stuff that again, back in the day was kind of like mind-blowing with how much attention to small detail there was with this and how much depth there was to something that was seemingly an afterthought that, again, unless you got up, you wouldn't actually ever be able to see. So that's just a cool little Easter egg here that I love that is, of course, still there. I would have been really bummed if it wasn't. The emblem duplication glitch from Black Ops 2 is actually apparently still a thing. Had seen a bunch of people posting about this earlier in the day, which is kind of funny that we just end up having these bugs and glitches, again, still persisting after all this time. And even when you end up reintroducing them on a different platform, yes, it's not something that's a remaster or they touched really anything on it. It's just funny that those types of things are reintroduced that you probably haven't thought about for, again, a decade plus. Peer-to-peer connections and connection interrupted is a sometimes hilariously frustrating thing that you may not have remembered. Again, we talked about this yesterday a little bit in our video breaking down everything you need to know, but peer-to-peer connections have not been a thing for years now within Call of Duty. So to end up seeing that connection interrupted icon and plug pulled with that is kind of just like a funny blast from the past. Can be probably frustrating if you're actually trying to go for high streaks or something like that, but that connection is also something that's still there that we haven't thought about for years. Also, one smaller anecdotal thing here is, of course, being the only one on your team when playing solo that knows how to play the game, apparently. Playing solo predominantly for my entire time historically on COD, up until the skill-based matchmaking stuff, that frustrating for an entirely different reason. If you were a good solo player, there was a high chance that you would have to drag your team kicking and screaming to the finish line and hope that they contributed enough that you could end up winning, but that's a different story for a different day. Just a funny reminder of the frustrations with matchmaking that used to happen as opposed to what we have now. But with all this in mind, is it worth the buy? I mean, I think this breaks down into a few categories. I never like to say these types of things because it's entirely subjective, and dude, I'm just an idiot on the internet with a microphone. It is no way my place to tell you what to do with your money. What I personally thought through with this is that if this had not been on sale for the upcoming, month or something like that for PlayStation Plus, I probably wouldn't have gotten these. $40 to end up playing probably a couple of weeks maybe at that point and relive the glory days. Wouldn't want to do that twice over. Getting both for $40 in the price of one, sure, that's fine. The DLC in terms of cosmetics for free. Didn't pick up any of the other DLC like the season pass or individual packs. Don't care that much really. I'm just happy to be able to jump in and probably for the next week or so relive some of the glory days and then maybe jump back every so often to see how it's doing. Then again, on sale, I liked these games enough to want to try and pick it up, but I also think it's kind of crazy that 13 and 15 years later, they're still trying to get $40 out of these for games that aren't upgraded in any capacity. They aren't doing anything other than just bring them back into the limelight. So, I mean, maybe you fall in that category, maybe you don't. But again, it is not my place to tell you what to do with your money. That's just my thinking beyond all this. But Anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. But before we do, a quick heads up, we have partnered with my friends over at Advanced GG. Again, as we've mentioned, a bit under the radar the last few months, but now going into the summer, ramping that up more and more. Advanced is the healthier energy supplement option where I use it daily as my comparable cup of coffee. Currently drinking that raspberry lemonade. Magic Rainbow Sherbet's also another one that's one of my favorites, but I'd highly recommend, and we actually co-branded that along with a few other items on their site, like a 26-ounce ice shaker. But love this stuff. If you're looking for a replacement for your own cup of coffee, give it a try. If you decide to give it a go, code Espresso and get 10% off your entire order. But no sweat, appreciate you hearing me out on this. And of course, just checking in on the videos here that you made it this far. Now that's what we're gonna call it. Just want to talk a little further about these ports because I've just been having a blast since this came out in the last 36 hours or so, depending on when you watch this. That just wanted to talk a little further, maybe inform you a little bit more, but more so just because I'm having fun, man. It's been a while since I've jumped on and wanted to make a Call of Duty video for a little bit. So hopefully you don't mind a more whimsical style video here. But anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. So let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe for more FPS content. We got a lot of stuff coming up throughout the year here that I'd love to have in the community, but for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care, and peace.